We expect that you may have a few questions for us because a lot of speculation took place before. Now is your opportunity to put a few questions to us, and I will allow you to put a few questions to our new people. They are parliamentarians. They should be ready to talk to you in a few minutes. But if there are any questions you want to put to me at the end of the year on this or any other matter, I'm available to you at this point.
Dr. Rowley, how do you respond to the views that were expressed with respect to the changes in the senatorial lineup that Ms. Beckles was removed because she was posing a threat to your leadership in the upcoming convention, and two, that she was removed for supposed non-performance in the vote on the Alderman bill?
Well, for a start, the internal elections, as I just said a while ago, they are not before us just yet. They are imminent. And of course, that is not the basis on which the change is made. And in terms of making decisions as to who stays and who goes, one would take everything into account. But the most important thing is that we are looking ahead. Whatever we do is with respect to improving our position as we go forward. Not being unmindful of our past, but we focus on the road ahead.
Any specific plans for Mr. Hines and Ms. Beckles going forward as candidates?
Well, as something that you should pay attention to in generating the script for the news, Mrs. Beckles Robinson remain a member of the PNM leadership by virtue of her position as Lady Vice Chairman of the party. She's head of the Women's League. I mean, we have a very important structure which we follow in the PNM now. So what happens in the parliament under the parliamentary umbrella is not the end of anything. Mrs. Beckles is a member of the leadership of the PNM. And that leadership is made up of the political leader, chairman, vice chairman, the deputies, the 4 deputies, and lady vice chairman. So don't get carried away by people who are unfamiliar with the facts. She is a member of the leadership. She is the head of the Women's League. And one can hardly get more important in the PNM than that. Very few people have positions higher than that in the PNM. I think there are only 4 or 5 people who may be in that bracket in the party of tens of thousands of members. So let us not get carried away. And these speculations are interesting reading, interesting thought, but they're usually not the whole story.
So you're saying, Dr. Rowley, that the decision you took should not in any way have any impact on any campaign Mrs. Beckles Robinson, if she decides to do so, would take to contest leadership of the party?
Don't sell me short. I did say in the beginning, if I accomplish one thing and one thing only as leader of the PNM, and that thing is to have opened up the party, giving party members full control of its leadership and preventing incumbents from dominating the internal election process. If that is all I accomplish in the PNM, then I will go happily thinking I've made significant change. And that has been accomplished by our one man, one vote position that we moved to, and by removing myself as the incumbent and creating a vacancy so that party members, for the first time in the history of this party members can determine who is the best person to lead the party into the imminent general election. Party members never had that role before. It was never available to party members to look at the landscape and determine on the eve of a general election who should lead the PNM. If you look at the United Kingdom, the Labour Party or the Conservative Party, there many times before a general election they change their leaders, because in their system the large parliament determines who the leader of the parliamentarian is, and they are required to assess their leader and determine whether the leader that they have at the moment is the best person, giving the party the best chance to win the next election. And once they come to the conclusion that there is doubt about that leader, they make the change, sometimes 2 or 3 times during a term, and then they go into general election. It's not this dead-end argument that this one is dead and this one is not. You look at the British Parliament and see how many people sat in the chair of leader of the opposition for a while, replaced by somebody else who the party felt is the best person. I have given the PNM that option for the members to make that decision, and that will be made in 2014. And every single party member would be available, if he or she so chooses, to make him or herself available to be examined. Because I'll tell you one thing, if I choose to make myself available when the vacancy comes, I will run on my record, and others who are interested in the position will also run their record. And the same way I'll be examined, they will be examined as well. And the party members will make that serious decision as to who is the best person at this juncture to lead us into the general election. That's where the PNM is at. So let us not personalize the PNM. The PNM has gone past it a long time ago. With one man, one vote, the party members at the individual level will choose who they think or who they want to lead the party into the next election. First time that is happening in a political party in Trinidad and Tobago. That is the evolution of our politics, and it has come in the PNM.
Dr. Ali, just continuing on that for a second.
I'm not buying the if. You decide to run when the vacancy comes up. I'm not buying the if.
Suppose my wife tells me she doesn't want me to run. What do you want me to do?
Dr. Ali, considering that this is the first time that the PNM is introducing one man, one vote, has the party or the leadership given any considerations to how it will be conducted? Because, for example, you see the UNC has been doing this for a while, and they have never recovered from the disaster of 2001.
Well, don't judge us by the UNC standards. It's a challenge. It is a challenge. As a matter of fact, we are preparing, and it's been long preparation because it's new to the party. It's a logistical almost nightmare. We have to have a proper membership list, which becomes a voters list. The logistics of actually conducting the elections, of securing the process, of ensuring that the process is free and fair and not interfered with in a way that is detrimental to the entire outcome. All of these. But we have taken the responsibility to say, if we are offering ourselves to run the country, we should be able to run an election within the party across the country. That is what we're doing, and we're preparing to do that. We have, the PNM is an organization that is a little better organized than the UNC. We have our structure across 41 constituencies, some areas stronger than others, and we are working to put that in place to ensure that we can carry out an election where the members vote as against 800 delegates. So it's a tough task, but we think the PNM is up to it. And it's against that background that the timing of it would be announced very soon, giving us ample time for the work to be completed in such a way that the process will stand a very good chance of being smoothly operated.
Just to follow up on the question, you mentioned about people that was being but what about Mr. Hines? What are your plans?
My plans, Mr. Hines is a very valuable member of the PNM and will continue so to be, and we have a lot of work for everybody. When in the opposition, there's more work than we have hands. So, but of course, there has to be a certain willingness, and Mr. Hines is extremely willing to the point of being a fault. I have no doubt that you will see and hear much more of him and all of the persons who want to contribute to our success. You see, a political party is a voluntary organization, and that is something that we miss from time to time. A political party is a voluntary organization, and a lot of what goes on in there is dependent on the willingness of people to perform, and attitude is an important attribute. But I can guarantee you that you have not seen the last of Mr. Hines or any person who wished to contribute to our success. You see, a lot is said about the PNM. But sometimes we don't get credit for the fact that we maintain, in fair times and times which are difficult, we maintain an institution, an organization that is of service to the national community. And a lot of people go beyond the call of national duty to ensure that the organization functions. A political party is very difficult and I dare say expensive to maintain. And election day is just one day in the life of a political party. The most important days sometimes are the difficult days in between elections, when the political party has to function. And we function against a very rigid constitution, and we have tremendous value to the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
Dr.
surely can we expect in the future that defeated candidates be brought into the Senate? That is happening now.
I don't know that that is a generalized statement that we've had the PNM at an earlier time when things were a whole lot better and the PNM was more dominant. I don't know if it was ever said as any policy, but it was a practice of the PNM that you didn't have people who had run in a general election coming into the same parliamentary term. But when you look at, we are a small country. Eh? This country, we behave as though we are a big country, but in fact we are a very tiny country. We do big things. And when you look at the situation, go back to the THA elections. Your press memory sometimes need to be jogged. Eh? Go back to the THA elections, and you remember that when Orville London ran in Tobago and he lost, William Mackenzie was the sole member who won a seat in the THA. We were 11-1, with the PNM being the one. And Orville London was deemed by the Tobago PNM to be the most valuable asset. And again, some objections in the PNM, William Mackenzie appointed Orville London as his councillor in the THA. And Orville went on to become a voice in the THA, and he's gone on to become the longest and most successful leader of the Tobago House of Assembly. So we're not, these things are not cast in stone. In Avinash's case, I was particularly proud of the way he came forward and he fought against all odds, making the party proud and demonstrating that his worth is not just in the Chaguanas area. His worth to the party and the country can be demonstrated in the parliament. And there's no law and there's no principle. Right? There's no person who he defeated or who defeated him, who he's coming up against in the Senate. We have had many instances of people being appointed to the lower house, where the person who defeated them in the house is sitting opposite them, voting against them. I draw a line on that. You would not see appointments by the PNM appointing people in the lower house if they contested and they were defeated in the lower house and they put in that chamber to cancel the vote of the person who was elected. You will not see me making that appointment. Can you see a difference?
No, not
Okay. In the lower house, let's take the case of Eddie Hart and Hector McLean. They both contested an election in Tunapuna. Eddie Hart won, Hector McLean lost. The party appointed Hector McLean Speaker. So here it was, two people were in the house together, and one had defeated the other, and they were both in the house. I think a distinction can be made in the lower house in that case. In the case of the Senate, there's no confrontation face to face, and there's no one having one over the other. The appointment is a little different.
The PNM opposed, apart from Hector McLean, they opposed the appointment of the 7 losers with candidate brought them to.
Yeah. And that's the point I'm making. Because those losers, the winners were in the chamber. They lost to somebody. And all the people that they lost to were in the chamber.
But they were going to the Senate.
But they were handed ministerial portfolios. They were being appointed as ministers, not senators, ministers. So they would take up, and in fact they have the run of the house. Even though you're a senator, once you're appointed a minister, you pretty much have a seat in the lower house. And you now have a section of the government to manage. And the person who is supposed to now be monitoring you or who you're reporting to now is the person who defeated you. There's a little distinction that can be made there. But I don't know that there's a...
No, but are you saying that because, I mean, the distinctions can always switch with time?
Which is what has happened here. As I said,
yes.
Over time, it was not something that was the practice you found in the PNM before, but it started with a THA appointment, which worked well, And in this case, I expect it to work well.
So what I'm asking is, has the policy been reviewed in the context of people losing in traditionally non-PNM areas or PNM heartland areas? Is it that it's only going to be in areas like Chaguanas and Zimbabwe?
No. It is something that you, how should I put it? As I said earlier on, there was no written policy, there was an evolved practice which was changed, and now I don't know that you could, I don't know that you will see the PNM appointing persons who run for election in a seat, and having lost, you put them in the parliament, in the chamber that they ran for. That is not something I will support, right? In the case of a Senate appointment, as in the case of Avinash, that's something I can support, and it is something which is again new to the PNM, and I'm sure it will work well for us and for the country.
There has been some criticism within the party about Ms. Banjo Singh Cheney's appointment. Some people have said that they have not seen her around the party. She's not involved in the party. How do you respond?
Well, again, that's a party matter. That's to be expected, because you must understand that we are a very large party. We have tens of thousands of members, and their views expressed no importance. I would be very surprised if there's anybody who tells me they know all the PNM members and the nature of their contribution to the party. So that's a little, how should I put it, presumptuous on the part of any person to want to determine a person's qualification on the basis of whether they're known to this individual or not. And I don't know that that is how you judge a person's contribution or their potential. And that's a non-argument, because there are many people who join the PNM at the point of being appointed to the cabinet. And the PNM knows that. After we've had many instances of an election being fought, and people like myself and others, we down in the trenches fighting, having no idea who will go in the cabinet. After the election, you see brand new faces with cabinet portfolios.
And it has always caused some.
Well, that is a matter for the leadership to determine whether how much of that you want to do and whether it is being done in the best interest of the party and the country. It's a leadership call. And I would hate to think that I'm denied the opportunity to reach out to all party members. Because I tell you one thing, and I don't only say this here, I say it all the time in Balizi House. We don't have two categories of members. We have one category, member of the PNM. And we don't have old members and new members. And as a matter of fact, I think it does well for the party to be able to attract onto itself new people and new talent, and to make them available for national service. And some people see appointments purely in the context of reward. Reward is only one aspect of your involvement in the political arena, but potential is also another. And when you prepare to go forward into battle, and when you make appointments, I said this only recently in Balizi House, the most important consideration for me and what I expect of any leader in making appointments is ability to do the job. Hold a minute. The three senators will stand there before you in a minute. Maybe I should do that now. I'm not a senator. That was a long time ago.
On a slightly different note, do you have any comment on our continued drop on the Transparency International CPI, and can you give us any update on the matters before the Integrity Commission that the party has raised?
I don't know who is making those assessments of our position as a corrupt country, but they're clearly uninformed. Because if they knew the whole story, we'd be at the bottom of the barrel. This country has become so corrupt in the last 3 years that if the assessors know the full story, they'll give us a few more points down the ladder. We've done very well in the absence of that information being known to them.
Dr. Ola, I just want to touch on the same point Clint was speaking about. Actually, one of the directors of the TTTI, I think his name was Drayton, Mr. Drayton, he mentioned that there's need for a reform of the Integrity Commission to give them more power to actually prosecute. What are your views on that?
I think if you have, okay, let me back up a little bit. Trinidad and Tobago is largely a lawless society, and making more laws by that alone does not improve our behavior, and the absence of enforcement of the existing laws is what causes us to be such a lawless society. If we enforce half of the existing laws, we'll see a dramatic improvement in the quality of life in Trinidad and Tobago. Secondly, as a person who took part in the parliamentary process which created the Integrity in Public Life Act of 2000, that act affords the Integrity Commission tremendous power. And you would have seen me from time to time alluding to the fact that the Integrity Commission should do this, should do that, should do the other. The power to appoint an investigator, and doesn't mean one person. The Commission could have any number of investigators. But the law permits the Commission to authorize appropriate persons and deem them to be investigators. And that investigative power, which is now existing in law in the Integrity Commission, is the most all-pervasive power of any office in Trinidad and Tobago. Because an Integrity Commission investigator cannot be denied access to information, because the law creates an offense if persons do not provide information required by the investigator once that information is deemed to exist. So I don't know that in the existence of that power, which is not being fully utilized, that additional powers will change the scope. The most important thing I think that's happening with the Commission is that the Commission does not have the resources to carry out the volume of work that is required. When the Commission came into being, it was anticipated that there would be instances of perceived wrongdoing or unacceptable conduct which the Commission may want to investigate from time to time. So the Commission has a size of staff, and it's a part-time arrangement where they will deal with these things as and when they come up. We never anticipated a flood of day-by-day, week-by-week requirements, urgent requirements, for the Commission to investigate serious infractions involving hundreds of millions of dollars, criminal conduct on the part of cabinet ministers. That is what is being facing. And when we argue this, I take you back to the budget debate of 2010, 2011 and 2012. On the Hansard, you would see in 2010, the very first budget of this government, they met a budget to the Attorney General of approximately $30 million for hiring outside lawyers. That $30 million budget had catered for Commission of Inquiry. The off-commission was taking place in 2009, 2010. The budget was $30 million. There were some outstanding bills to be paid, of course, and we expected that they would be paid. The next thing we knew, the budget which fell under the AG's office for those matters was doubled to $60 million. And we asked, why are you doing that? In a shortage of money. And of course, is it required? We were told they had to pay off the off-commission. But it wasn't that. That was only a part of it. It was giving the Attorney General a pot of money to go hunting after people. Before the end of the year, they came back to the Parliament and asked for $40 million more. So the budget went to $100 million. When we closed the account at the end of the year, in 2011, they had spent $108 million. Good. The following budget, they made a provision of $100 million to the Attorney General. We made the point, if there are investigations to take place, if persons in public life If persons on boards and so are believed to have done things wrong and investigations are required, we support that. But those investigations, if you know where they are and you know who the people are, let the Integrity Commission do that investigation using the unbridled power of their investigating officers. Instead of doing that, they gave the hundreds of millions of dollars to the Attorney General. The following year, they did the same thing. Now we have an Integrity Commission with a $20 million budget for its entire staff and a few dollars for investigation. They could hire very few officers, but the Attorney General is now reporting, as you saw in the Express on Monday, a piece of his expenditure from that ministry of tens of millions of dollars to people who supposedly were conducting a variety of all kinds of investigations and all kinds of road sweeping work. I have in my possession documents submitted to the AG office where favored lawyers are billing the office 400 million, 300 million for all kinds of, for reading a letter. One particular lawyer got $100 and something thousand for a magistrate court case to evict a tenant in Sawa. That's what's going on. And while that is happening out of the office of the Attorney General, the Integrity Commission, with the full power of the Integrity in Public Life Act, has a $23 million budget, something like that, and a mountain of investigations sitting there. We are saying, resource the Integrity Commission, let the Commission use the powers of the existing Act, and let there be investigations and let the chips fall where they may. Look at what's happening right now. The main players in the cabinet are under allegations of criminal conduct implicating the various officers of state. It is now 1 year that this serious matter has been before the country with those emails. And what's happened? I don't know that they've been properly investigated, and I still maintain up to now that the best avenue for investigating that was the power of the Integrity Commission, who should have gone to those officers. And this nonsense about lawyers writing you and telling you that they want you to agree to whether you should investigate and who you're investigating and whether who's a suspect or not. The Parliament has gone past that. The Parliament wrote into law that an Integrity Commission officer requiring data, whether it's in paper form, digital form, or any form it is stored, requests of any citizen, of any person, there's no booking of any argument. You provide it. You have members of the cabinet paying senior counsel to write the commission, to discuss and to arrange whether the commission is serious about investigating their client, and they want advice from the commission to advise their client not to cooperate with the commission. They can do that, yes, but the commission, under the relevant clause of the Act of 2000, has the power without let or hindrance to demand any and all of information and cooperation from persons who are alleged to have done things wrong or who have information useful to the commission. There's no other office in the state that has that power. If a policeman comes to you to talk to you, you can say, I have nothing to say to you, and you commit no offense by doing that. If an Integrity Commission officer comes to you and asks you for information, asks you for documents, you don't have that without committing an offense, and that's the difference. And I don't know that we've exhausted those powers. What I do know is that to deal with the mountain of wrongdoing and allegations of serious misconduct in the public domain in Trinidad and Tobago, the Commission is not sufficiently resourced. And we raised this with the Minister of Finance before. And I'll tell you something else too. I hate to quote myself, but when these monies were being made available to the Attorney General, I told the Minister of Finance, it would be a hell of a thing if you are making these hundreds of millions available to the Attorney General, ostensibly to root out corruption, and they by themselves, these monies become a trough which generate their own corruption. I say no more for the moment.
Could I just go back to ask you one question? How do you respond to Jack Warner's statement of encouragement and support to Ms. Beckles if she decides to contest the PNM leadership and his decision not to say yea or nay on reports that she was considered for the St. Joseph seat in Guyana. How do you respond to that?
As I said earlier on, we of the PNM, in our sober reflections, will take no advice from Jack Warner and all that he and his advice represent. And as I said earlier, the choice of PNM leadership and PNM leader is a matter for PNM members. And I'm sure they will know how to take Jack Warner's advice and his support and involvement with any person or persons who he may want to choose to lead the PNM. So I would not, that is not a matter for me, that's a matter for PNM members. I have one vote.
Do you think that he may attempt to destabilize the party?
He can try.
Dr. Rowley, Nigel Alexander from CNMG. Could you just give some of the PNM highlights of 2013 and secondly, could you just give a comment on your MP for San Fernando East? He has been on the campaign trail and the local government, but we haven't even get any update as to how he's doing.
Let me answer the second one first. Mr. Manning still holds a seat in the parliament, and we still continue to wish him ongoing improvement. Whatever he was able to do during the local election of 2013, whether it's just showing his face or waving his hand, whatever he was able to do symbolically, we welcome. He indicated that he was supporting us. You know, Barbados during World War II, Barbados encouraged the British to go full speed ahead, taking on the might of the Germans. Barbados is behind, right? So we appreciate whatever all our members can do. And Mr. Manning is a very valuable member of the PNM. And we hope that one day he'll be able to be stronger than he is now. There's not much more. I don't have any information as to how he's doing other than what we all know in the public domain. And I think he's recuperating like most. There are many people in the country with this kind of challenge, and we wish them all well. With respect to the highlights of the PNM for 2013, I don't want to discuss any of our internal matters here. This is the opposition office, so I would want to leave that. But in terms of our parliamentary performance, we provided vigorous debate contributions on all the matters that came to the House. Our members and all, as a matter of fact, I don't want to single out any particular member, but we did in fact enlighten the population on the matters before us. We see our role as providing the population with the information that the population should have about how public business is being conducted and holding the government accountable. And we did so, I think, quite well. With respect to PNM's policies and programs, as we enter January, as we move into 2014, we'll shift gear and begin to talk now about what the PNM represents in terms of policies and programs, looking towards general election and our anticipation of becoming the next government of Trinidad and Tobago.
So these two things that Dr. Rowley said.
Did you mention Central Bank Act? Central Bank Act? Did you say?
No, but
Let me draw your attention, because you see, you've seen the court striking down the Central Bank Amendment Act. The question we want to ask the government is how many $1 million that cost us in legal fees. That could have been avoided entirely, because we did tell the government that this could not stand, would not stand, because the government was assuming unto itself a role that was reserved for the judiciary. And we thought that while the government was praising itself and crowing about fixing the CLICO matter, we told the government and the parliament this was not a fix. It will be open to challenge in the court, and we wait to see what the court will say. The court has spoken, and the court has struck down what the parliament did with the government's votes. I just want to remind you, the government was advised not to do that. And I hope the government is not going to appeal it, because it's just going to put more money in lawyers' pockets.
As you mentioned, this is at the Parliament, but given the very tragic ruling of Kiana Kalamat, the issue of the Child Protection Act not being paid is passed. well, the Children's Authority and so on, that issue, the law that is supposed to protect children has not been passed. Does the opposition have a particular position on this issue? It's been passed but not been proclaimed. Does the opposition have a position on the issue of protection of children and the non-proclamation of this law?
The preparations for the proclamation seem to be dragging on because the law itself took a long time to be passed. It has been passed with our full support and our participation in the Parliament, and I don't know what's holding up the proclamation. I think it is dragging and it should not be. That law and all the attendant support for the various aspects of the law would put us in a better position to treat with most of the issues that may, or I shouldn't say most, many of the issues which children face. But I'm not one of those who will take the position that if the law was passed, that child may not have been damaged. Because you see, there's something about law. There are very few instances where you can invoke the law in anticipation of what you think is going to happen. The laws usually kick in only after the damage has been done. And in these matters of family, over and above the law, we have to accept that there are things that have to happen behind closed doors. Because remember, with all the law we pass, and however we debate and come to a position of reason of passing the law, we always preserve the sanctity of privacy and within your home. What is the role of the law on your bed? The allegations in front of us here now is that the person who killed that child was sleeping on the bed with the child's mother. And it's difficult to see what law you would have invoked to prevent that if the evil came through the door into the bedroom. So yes, there's a role for law, but there's a role for humanity outside of law as well. We have to try in very many ways, and this is where a lot of the people who are calling on the government to give them the assistance to work in areas where they could improve that humanity, so that we don't depend on the existence of a law to prevent something where the law itself might not be effective. Because I don't know, inside your home, the law has a limit by the front door until something happens, in most instances, which is why the PNM's housing program, we felt that that housing program was valuable not only to say we build X number of houses, but in terms of quality of life, the physical conditions under which people live have a way of ameliorating the opportunities and the circumstances for bad things to happen to children and to young people and so on. Because if you live in a certain kind of condition, certain kinds of things associated with it. I'm not saying that is so in this particular case, but the general concern for children, right, goes as far as the housing program. It goes as far as, you can call the police station and get a response within a certain time, but it may start with a neighbor hearing a child crying and doing nothing, or seeing something which looks odd and being able to report it and somebody take you seriously. So this is a big problem which we have to face, and I prefer to see it being faced in the context of us as individual human beings, as a father of 2 children. I go cold when I read what another father is facing today because of what happened to his child, and worse, what a father might have done to his own child. And I'm asking, is this part of our society? Was this happening before and we didn't know, and it's only because it's being reported now? And I can also tell you, I have had the opportunity of living in a household with a child who for a couple of years, or I think 1 or 2 years, worked as a child guidance officer in my district, in my own constituency. And she would come home and tell us a little bit about her work at school and a lot of what she was finding and dealing with in the primary schools. It's frightening. And I'm saying, how are we going to solve this problem up here if there's a constant supply of this down there? And we have to treat with this at the source. And the source is a broad-based source. Is the home, the community, the social support system, and the interventions. We, as a country, we are short on effective interventions.
Against that backdrop, Dr. Ali, how effective or not effective do you see this child protection task force being to address these issues?
Well, it's not going to be a panacea, but I hope it makes some contribution. I don't see it as solving the problem, but I see it as contributing.
This is one other thing. It's kind of question for me. There's a few questions right now. The issue of what is happening between Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica. Denial of entry of Jamaican nationals. We're being told by the government 17,000 legal Jamaicans are here illegally. What is your position take on that, given the PNM's long-standing position on regionalism?
There's only one position we have, and that is that as long as Trinidad and Tobago acts and is guided by the very lucid judgment of the Caribbean Court of Justice, I think all would be well. I don't know that we should be arguing it from the point of view of Trinidad and Tobago denying Jamaicans entry into Trinidad and Tobago. I don't think that is what has happened, because the record will show that it is not that. We have denied entry to some persons, and I don't have the facts, but I'm just hoping that when we act at the border, that we act within the context of that judgment of the CCJ. So if the Jamaicans complain, that their complaint too would be against that judgment, because the movement within the region, we have signed up to some treaties that allow that movement, which the court has said to us, allows access to our CARICOM country. But there are certain conditions under which CARICOM states can deny access. And in fact, you would have observed that in Barbados, the Barbados government lost that part of the case. That's the only part of the case that the complainant won. Whether the government had demonstrated to the court that it had acted within the requirements of the law. And I hope Trinidad and Tobago would have studied that law, and that we are not doing anything that we too can be held by the court to have done something like that. I don't subscribe to the Prime Minister's point of view that just simply saying that unless she knows something I don't know, and she may very well, that they are charged in the public purse, because somebody may want to question how has that been demonstrated. I have confidence that we can properly solve this very easily by simply complying with the guidelines laid down by the CCJ. I mean, tens of thousands of Jamaicans are coming and going. I understand that there are 15 persons who were stopped. I don't know the reason why they were stopped, but I do know that the law and the treaty permits that you can deny someone entry, and the court determine the condition under which that entry can be denied. I don't have the facts on these cases, and therefore I will not comment on the specific cases. With respect to illegal immigrants in this country, notwithstanding our own complaints about our circumstance, Trinidad and Tobago still remains a very attractive location to many people, not just from the region but from across the world. And I think that we should do more to prevent the entry and occupancy of our space by illegal persons from all racial. But of course, CARICOM people are our brothers and sisters, and of course you treat family a little differently, and we don't treat anybody inhumanely. I have received complaints about inhumane treatment about persons from extra-regional locations who are held here, and I think we as a people should not be accused and be guilty of that. And CARICOM people should be treated in a way that if they come and they overstay, they comply with the laws, and if they don't, well then they know that they will have to face the outcome. But the human trafficking is big business, and I'm pleased to know that the police service has a department which focuses on that, and we should do more about that, because that is open, naked criminal conduct for profit, and people are harmed in the process, and that is one that I would like to see stamped out.